Okay, so I was talking to the vintage preacher earlier today. He's an old school pastor. I used to go to his church when I was a little kid. I thought he was God. Anyway, we were talking about some things. I tell vintage preacher, hey, vintage preacher, sometimes I want to do drugs like cocaine. Vintage preacher said, the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. And also, he was talking about Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ was hanging on a cross. And then he's like, hey, and he just called out someone in the crowd and said something to them like, hey, you, take care of my mother or something. Yeah. And then I'll tell the vintage preacher, look, vintage preacher, I already read the Bible. Do I need to keep on reading it throughout my life? Then the vintage preacher was like, that is a book that is created by the creator of the universe. And he's like, it's very sacred and holy and stuff. So he said that you can keep on reading it throughout your whole life. He's like, yeah, you should at least read it from start to finish at least once. He's like, but then you can just read it like however you want. He was giving me advice on how to do Christianity. He's like, all right, Frosty, you gotta go to a church. I was talking to the vintage preacher about hell and Satanism and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, so what's the allure of Satan? I ask him, why do people just want to go worship Satan and stuff like that? He's like, well, because Satan is very good at deceiving people. I'm like, oh yeah, like how Satan's gonna reward you. He's like, yeah, that's kind of what Satan does. And I'm like, look, vintage preacher, so my old girlfriend Cassandra, with her cult and stuff, how they were coming after me, they were casting spells, and they were sending me like blackmail messages. I was telling vintage preacher about that. That vintage preacher's like, nah, you'll be fine. I'm like, oh yeah, just like how you said months ago. You said I'd be fine and I'm all good. I'm like, yeah, God's been protecting me, vintage preacher. Yeah, because apparently people, for whatever reason, here, let me put this out. Yeah, people have been trying to come hunt me down. They found out my location, but I haven't seen any assassins yet. But vintage preacher said that God's gonna protect me, so I'm all good. Anyway, he was saying that hell is eternal darkness. I'm like, dang. He's like, okay, so you get a test. The test is, it's a yes or no, true or false question. Is Jesus Lord? And he's like, yes, yeah, you gotta go to heaven. And then if you answer no, false, bummer, too bad. You have to go to hell. Anyway, yeah, my old girlfriend Cassandra didn't believe in hell for whatever reason. But she believes in the devil, which doesn't really make sense. Um, I don't know. Cassandra's logic is kind of flawed. But anyway, yeah. Cassandra and her cult, they were doing like summoning demons. And even when I still was in her cult, I was like kind of beefing it with some of the people because they're all trying to like hit on the cult leader. So they just get pissed off at me and they start like drawing pentagrams and summoning demons. I'm like, oh fuck. That's why I kind of left Discord, but then I had to re-download it because that's the only way I could get a hold of Cassandra. And then she turned on me, and yeah, I'm still kind of in the magic battle. And this is what I was discussing with the vintage preacher. I'm like, look, vintage preacher, man. I know, like, I still want to do black magic and stuff. I still want to go and do the magic battle with Cassandra and the piston shifters and stuff like that. And I'm like, and then I remember that thing you told me months ago. Black magic will never let you go. kind of became like a quote of the vintage preacher. And I'll ask him, like, so what do you mean when you say black magic will never let you go? He said, well, it's not in the sense that like you can't stop doing it, but he's like, it's like a strong desire. Once you get the taste of the black magic, it's like a form of sorcery, and then you get the power, and then it's like your body kind of craves that energy. And that's what the vintage preacher was telling me. He's like, you're addicted to black magic. I'm like, oh dang. So that was kind of disturbing. We're talking about like demons and the devil, and he's bringing up like the example of Solomon with his 800 wives. I'm like, dang, how do you have 800 wives? I'm kind of just laughing at that. I'm like, he's talking about lust. I'm like, oh, so Solomon never even fulfilled his lust. He's like, nope. I'm like, damn. That's kind of depressing. It's like, he's like, you always want to do like more and more. And so yeah, the vintage preacher was giving me some wisdom. Anyway, I'm gonna try to end off this video at 666. I was asking vintage preacher, so what is the number of the beast? He's like, I don't know, but when it's there, you'll know. And he's talking about like the end times and stuff. He's going on about hell and the devil. He's like, look, Frosty, I just want to talk about the good thing. Let's just focus on God and heaven. I remember what my old Catholic teacher told me. God is love, the devil is hate. Anyway, yeah, let's see. T minus 10, 9, 8. Santa Claus is Satan. 6, 6, 6.